Move swiftly on to Cecilia. The floor is yours. Do you have a presentation, or are you going to be?
No.
Okay, perfect.
No, I think there is a couple of factors that have changed over the past couple of decades. Of course, the speed of technology has basically shown us that a global scale of services and data services is a major driver of growth. If we look at the top 4 tech companies, they have grown 450% over the last 10 years. So it is, if you compare it like other sectors that have huge growth, for example, the pharma sector, that number would be 17% of growth. So there is something in that data growth that has changed the competitive picture of the world and kind of disrupted what we saw as a competitive area of the nation state. Right now, it's a global economy that works across border, scale of market matters, and scale of efficiency and customer services is at the heart of competition. And of course, that challenges the way we regulate, not least. It changes the way that we see, a nation state function with all the regulatory bodies, wall to wall within a smaller area. So I want to call out 2 things. So one, Europe is a place that has 2 types of countries. It has the small countries and the countries that know that they're small. If you look at global scale competition, that's more true than ever. So I would say Europe needs Europe, and countries in Europe really needs Europe. And global partners in trade need Europe, because Europe is right now a very, still, in spite of the efforts that we have done, still a very fragmented market, and that's not a plus. It's not a plus for us, and it's not a plus for our trade partners. And it's definitely not a plus for our SMEs trying to keep up with the old way of regulating in a new world of competition. Does that mean that we're lost forever? No, definitely not. You just mentioned that UK has come up with sandboxing. My own country, I'm Danish, came up with similar things. So they said, Uber, you cannot stay in Denmark, unfortunately, in my view. But, however, we'll take your CEO and put you into the government and make you the head of disruption policies, which has now created a function within the government where each time there's a policy, we look at that policy and say, okay, how does it disrupt other policies? What can it actually do? How can we sandbox it? Which is, I think it's pretty cool. But we're a small test country, so. But maybe that is the way that we can start thinking in Europe. How can our legislation basically keep up with the speed? We saw the flag in front of the car, yes, but at that time, the development was so slow that you could take, okay, we take the flag, then we take down the flag, and people could follow. Right now it's so quick that the rise in populism is becoming a risk, and we have to communicate really clearly, and we cannot afford to say, okay, we'll wait, we'll regulate the way we did before, because the world is just moving faster, and global competition has happened. It's nothing that it's coming or, oh, here it is, it's there. I mean, when I was at school, many years ago, 25 years ago, I read a thesis called The Fall of the Nation State, like trying to find out desperately how the globalization and the small unit of countries could actually keep up with global competition. We are there now. It's super exciting times. Europe has huge strengths. We're very innovative. We're very agile. We're very diverse. But we also have to learn to keep that balance on regulatory I would say toughness and innovative behavior in a world that has changed. So I think striking that balance between finding out how can we take our existing industries, like the manufacturing industries, we're still discussing 4.0, but without, like Ireland seemed to know, without the connectivity, there is no 4.0. I mean, then we talk about digital skills. Well, super, I mean, but with the school system and the just changing one curricula, we'll have digital skills in like, I don't know, 2050. I mean, we don't have time for that. So we need connectivity to make sure that we can educate people in their homes through different methods. We need to give them the health system. We need to have more efficient health systems to make sure that we can keep up with the public costs and balance that. So how do we do that? We need connectivity. So I think it's the time where the rising populism has, they can really play the fear of the big tech and, oh my God, it's coming and changing the world. Well, sorry guys, but it has. It's not coming. It has changed the world. And it's really time for also national policymakers and industry, for that matter, to tell, this has happened, stay cool, now we're implementing connectivity. We need to heavy invest in connectivity. We need to heavy invest in AI development. We will definitely not be the region in the world or the continent in the world that will suffer from lack of regulation. I'm pretty sure. So we're in control. I mean, there we're very good. I mean, the Commission right now, just think about it. 20 years ago, everybody said, why do you want to be in tech, Cecilia? It's like really boring, like something in the basement. And we no, tech isn't everything, right? And then 10 years later, it was like, oh, tech is in everything, we're getting it. And now everything you hear is digital, digital, digital. But we failed to let the populations understand what the change means, and we failed to speed up our policy processes and develop new ways of doing this. But now it's coming, and again, it's not too late, and I see the Commission is working with it, many countries are working with it, and if I really look at what we can do better, striking that balance between getting the growth, getting the innovation, making sure that we don't block data mining because of we need to protect our creative sector at any price. Well, that comes from basically looking at what is this idea and how does it intervene with other policies that we have made. And maybe we could sandbox it for a while until we really understand the consequences and what kind of regulative initiatives are needed to enhance, not least, first should be enhance, and then of course to prevent the risk from happening. The GDPR, it's in place, it's supported. I think everybody's doing their best to implement. But there is something correct that it is very tough on the SMEs to implement. It is a big task, and until we get that scale-up culture and bigger companies also in Europe, it's going to be quite hard to regulate at that speed. Now we have the e-privacy directive up top. To me, a perfect example of something that started before the GDPR, then we had the GDPR, and now we're not really sure what to do with that e-privacy directive. And, there's a lot of contradiction in there, a lot of misunderstandings in there. If you ask citizens, do you want e-privacy? What would they say? If a politician say, how many of you guys met on the street not knowing the e-privacy directive would say, do you want e-privacy? Hands up. Okay, so like half. Okay, I'm sure if you meet people on the street who don't know tech, all of them will say, yes, I like e-privacy, that sounds really nice. But, it's so easy to play that game. What is it? What does it actually mean for industry? How does it actually hamper, the innovation? How does it actually stop the growth for the mid-sized online companies? It's super, super important to understand. We support the GDPR, but what are we missing? Are we actually missing anything? And what exactly do we need to do on top of that if we're working with it? So that kind of thinking really should be, built on top of the good collaboration that we have with government, and not least the Commission at the moment. But it's really at the heart of how we balance that, strike that balance between growth, innovation, making sure that we don't leave the SME behind in that room, and getting the regulatory framework in place.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Life moves so fast these days, it really is about a new mindset to find the balance between regulation and innovation. What say you, Dale Sunderland?
I'm going to join you at the podium if that's
perfect,
okay.
Perfect, great. A quick round of applause for Cecilia, please. That was wonderful, thank you. Great.
Well done. Good morning, everyone. It's great to